Hi friends, welcome back to Book Love. Thanks for joining me today. My name's Ember and I'm going to be talking to you about the third book in the Strain trilogy, and it is called The Night Eternal. And these books are by Guillermo Del Torro and Chuck Hogan. So I read the first book of these as one of my reading challenges, and you can go ahead and watch that review if you haven't yet. I'll put it in the description box below. But these books, just to give you an overview real quick, they are vampire books. And I actually read a quote from the back of the first book, and I noticed they have it on the front of this third book, at least part of it. It says Bram Stoker meets Stephen King meets Michael Crichton, and that's a really great description for these books. They are kind of creepy and spooky, thrillery, and they are about kind of a darker version of vampires, not kind of a romanticized version. And I've been trying to think about how to describe these books, how I've thought about them and felt about them. And I finished this about a month ago, so I've had some time to reflect, and I'm really sorry it took me so long to get this video done, but it's been hard for me to categorize them, actually. So I was really reluctant to read this trilogy that my husband had bought, back in the day, and finally decided to read the first one because it fit one of my reading challenges, as I mentioned. But I found that they were really good. They're really interesting. The first book almost, to me, had a vibe of even a zombie book, right? So there's kind of this mystery going on, and you can tell this like evil, infection is spreading. The first book's called The Strain, if you didn't know, so the name kind of gives that away. The second book I did mention in my review of it, which I'll also link below, was a little bit hard for me pacing wise, but it just kind of was a little stopgap between the first book and the third book, in my opinion. So the third book, I didn't have any pacing issues whatsoever with it. Again, the second book and the first book did this a little bit. Left you sort of on a cliffhanger, not quite a cliffhanger, but definitely in a tense situation where you were like, oh my gosh, what? And you just like have to see what happens. You have to read the next book. So number 3, I feel like it totally lived up to the expectations that had been kind of leading up to it. The books really do kind of talk about some intense situations. These aren't really books that I would recommend for younger readers. Maybe advanced or mature teens would be fine with it. There's just some graphic, intense kind of violence in it, and some serious social commentary a little bit. One of the interesting things, now that I've read the whole trilogy, I can think about is the connection between the characters Abraham Satrakian and his experience living in one of the death camps in World War II, and kind of what happens to the world through this series without giving any spoilers away. At the start of this book, things are in bad shape. Okay, I will tell you that right now. The world is struggling and it's in trouble. And so seeing that and reading just how dark, physically dark, and just emotionally dark the world is, it was a little bit intense and definitely made me see that there was a comparison. Maybe, I don't know if the authors were making that or if I was just seeing it. But this book really did not just dwell in negativity. There's a lot of good triumphs. The end of the book I was satisfied with. It ended in ways that I didn't expect. The characters, most of the time, I was cheering them on. They were sometimes making mistakes or choices that I thought were dumb that I didn't agree with, of course, because whatever. But I really liked to see how they grew and how they progressed and where they got to by the end of the book. So even though these are kind of not maybe my normal genre or ones that I would typically pick up for myself, I really did enjoy this trilogy, and I find that I've been thinking about it on and off quite a lot over the last month, and not just because I hadn't done this video yet, but just things, I'm one of those readers, and maybe you are too, like I can read a story just for the fun story factor, but I also can read a fun story, and just think about the connections in the world around me or in my life, or struggles that the character's going through, that I'm going through, or not even close to these struggles these guys are going through. But I hope you see what I mean, where, you know, that's one of the things I love the most about reading is you're kind of in a different world or a different life. You're not necessarily in your reality, whatever that means, but you are experiencing things that you can relate to, or the character can come through a situation that can make you stronger even though you didn't have to go through it. So yeah, I wouldn't say this is your typical vampire story. Like I mentioned, it reminds me a little bit of like zombies. It also reminds me a little bit of, the story is also kind of a mystery. It's also a little bit of a post-apocalyptic story, a little bit of a religious, faith-based story, definitely a little bit of a creepy horror story, and even just a story about human nature and being able to survive things that are challenging and that are made to kind of press your spirit down. So there's a lot that can go into these books, and I hope that if it sounds interesting to you, you give it a try and let me know if you do, what you think about them. But that's all I have today for this video about The Night Eternal. And again, this is by Guillermo Del Torro and Chuck Hogan. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. You can also hit the little bell icon, which will give you a notification when new videos of mine come out. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Have an awesome day. Bye.